It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 399. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Bah.
Kodra.
Hi.
Tam.
Bah.
And Thalen.
Bah, indeed.
So, last week we talked briefly about Kodra being gone because GenCon was happening.
I was at GenCon.
And now we have a Kodra back. So, how was GenCon, Kodra?
GenCon was really great. It was really fun to be back LARPing again and seeing all the old familiar faces back at the convention. I listened to the podcast, so I heard there's a lot of interest around my Toontown Noir game, which was basically I was playing as we were all in the world of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, basically.
Okay.
But set in modern day.
So the world of Rescue Rangers, the movie.
Kind of. And this was specifically like a gritty and grimy town. Like it was very noir, like Toontown Noir. It was very noir themed. We had the death of all of the characters have different names, but like the death of Optimus Prime was the inciting incident, who had been rubbed out by an eraser. And I was playing Jonesy, Freddie Jones, and I was actually not a toon, I was a human. But I was a precocious youth who had solved mysteries and really enjoyed solving mysteries, and so I looked into it. And it turns out to actually be a private detective, you have to like get a degree in criminology, and you have to like go get certified by the like local police. But in Toontown, all you need to be a private detective is to have an animal sidekick.
Nice.
So I started the game without any sidekick, and I went around, and there were so many animal sidekicks, and none of them should be a partner. And the first one I met was Donald Duck, basically a Donald Duck, but Donald Duck was like an ambitious Donald Duck who wanted to be the like mayor of Toontown. And I think he figured he could exploit our relationship somehow to get ahead, and dumped me at the first moment he got. But I found another one, another animal detective, and ultimately I kind of figured out what the backstory right before I got blown up in a turpentine explosion.
Oh no!
So that was the end of that one for me. But yeah, LARPing was fun. I got to play a Scottish superhero who basically is like Thor, only with a caber instead of a hammer. And that was very fun. And then I got to see a lot of board games. I don't know if it's just that, like, it's been 3 years, but the exhibition hall felt overwhelmingly large this year. Like, there was so many board games being demonstrated. And I got to play a lot of them. Special shout out to Wizard Kittens. It's a game in which you are... wizard kittens at a wizarding school, and your professor has stepped out for a moment and all sorts of curses start occurring, and clearly it's up to you, the precocious students of the Wizarding Academy, to solve all of these curses, even though you've been told not to do any of this. And so you score the most points if you solve the most curses, as long as all of the curses get cleaned up. But if the professor shows up and you haven't solved all of the curses, then anyone who is doing the most work to help, they're obviously the ones who started all of this, and they get in the most trouble. So the person who cleaned up the least amount of curses wins. And but you're still cat, so mostly you're like collecting items and like messing with other people's rituals, because you're cats. You're just like knocking items around. until magic happens. That game was very fun. If you like trick-taking games, Cat in the Box is very fun. It's a game in which you are playing a trick-taking game, meaning there is a deck of cards where there's one card of each suit. Only none of the cards in this game have suits, so you observe what suit it is when you play it, and then that observed card is now no longer able to be played anywhere for the rest of the game. And so you mark it on a little tracker to make sure you know what cards have been played and what haven't. And then if you are left with a hand of a bunch of cards that don't exist, well, you caused a paradox and you lose. I've played that a bunch now, and that's very fun and a very good take on the trick-taking card game genre. If you're into euchre or hearts or spades, check out Cat in the Box. Ash suggested that I check out Flamecraft since it was being demoed, and Flamecraft is delightful. It's a game where you are residents of a magical village, and you're going to make the village more magical by adding more dragons to it.
Well, okay.
Clearly, there's nothing that could go wrong with that.
All of the dragons are adorable. There's like little baker dragons, there's meat carving dragons, there's gem mining dragons, and they're all helping the humans. It's adorable and very, very... It's definitely a game that's going to trigger my analysis paralysis.
On a scale of D&D to what is it, Cinder? How characterful are we talking here?
It's not as like characterful as Cinder, and I don't know like how much the narrative, like it's not really a narrative game. It's like a meat and potatoes, like we're gonna crunch our way through some numbers type of game. It's just adorable. Like all of the art is incredibly cute, which I feel like that was another big thing I was noticing is a lot of games, especially at the convention, were living and dying by like their table presence, like how much a game is going to stop and make you say, "Oh, that looks cool."
I mean, we're kind of living in a golden age of board games.
We are.
Yeah, there's a
presentation matters.
On that list is also Burgle Bros 2.
Wait, what?
Burgle Bros 2.
Burgle Bros was great.
We played Burgle Bros. Tam and I did on Board Game Arena, and that's very fun. Burgle Bros 2. So Burgle Bros 1 has like 3 different levels, and you like lay them all next to each other. Burgle Bros 2 actually has like a constructed stand, so the second level goes on top of the first level and like is actually in 3D space. And it's based on a casino heist rather than like a bank heist. But yeah, Burgle Bros is really fun. I have not gotten to play it, but I picked up the cooperative deck builder, the My Little Pony card game, which looks very cute. They came with a free pack of meeples. And I also stopped by the Corvus Belly booth, which had Warcrow on display. The Warcrow minis looked great. I demoed the game, and I'm not 100% sold on their current implementation of the dungeon crawl. At least the demo didn't leave me like really wanting to pick it up. But they also had pre-painted MDF terrain, which is gorgeous and really cool, like how it stacks together and how easy it was to like put minis inside of a building and have them climb upstairs was very interesting to watch.
Yeah, there's a bunch of really cool stuff happening in the MDF space.
Yeah. And like that definitely is an important thing for a game like Infinity, which really needs a specific type of board to play. The Pathfinder folks had a display case showing off. They have a minis arena game, like a minis like board game coming out, which I'm definitely going to keep an eye on because I remember playing the 3.5 minis board game, and that was really fun. Or like they called it a minis game, but it played like 3.5 D&D. And so I'm curious to see what's going on there. And they also had a bunch of their Kingmaker like books in a display case. Not available yet, but they're getting there. Stellaris. There was the Stellaris Infinite Legacy, which I'm very excited by, and they kind of walked me through how one of the key attributes to that game is every empire has an era score, which basically indicates how many games have you played with this empire, and that era score derives a lot of like the objective and scoring and various rules. So it's their attempt at making it so that a more advanced empire with a younger empire can still play the same game together. I'm very interested in that one when it comes out, because I think that sounds like a cool idea where basically anyone can just drop into your legacy game, and it doesn't matter like who you started playing it with. That's kind of the core weakness, I think, with legacy games, really, is like you start playing one of these with a group of friends and then you need everyone to be there and you can't add or subtract anyone.
Oh, I was thinking more it's the... I thought when you were saying that it was like, hey, this empire kept winning, so now they're weaker. Like, the more an empire wins, the less good it gets, which stops you from being like, this is the correct choice. I'm playing the correct winning choice.
Yeah,
which
I'm not...
Terraforming Mars runs into.
Yeah, well, I mean, most games have snowballing effects. I don't know 100%. I didn't get to play. I don't know how well it handles that, or if there is the capability for an empire to just become like outsized in its power level. I'll be interested to see when it comes out. But no, more that like a empire that is mechanically weaker can still win a game because their objectives are easier to achieve. And like they don't have to achieve as many objectives to win. Like one of the things they were showing me is like if your empire is era 2 and another is era 3, the era 3 will have to like score 2 objectives and the era 2 will only have to score 1, for example. And again, it'll be a whole thing on how well that's balanced is a question I still have, but it did at least show me how it works. Ravensburger had the Star Wars Villainous game, which I did not pick up, but boy, that seemed popular, and I'm curious about that one.
Is it cross-compatible with the other Villainous game?
No, it's not. Neither is the Marvel. I asked.
Yeah, I saw that a little afterwards. Kind of a shame, but
yeah,
oh well.
It is. I would definitely like to pit Pete the Cat versus Darth Vader. And then the other game that I saw that I was very interested in was My Father's Work, which was a game in which you are returning home to your ancestral manor after your father has passed away, and in the basement you discover his dark secret, a project he's worked on his entire life, and now it's up to you to finish your father's work. And it's a app-driven game where you have to manage relationships with the villagers, which I think sounds like fun. I also know a bit of a controversial crew that was there was the Warmachine and the Privateer Press.
Kind of controversial.
I may be bearing the lead a little bit. Like, all of my friends used to play Warmachine. Now none of my friends are playing Warmachine.
Okay, moving that topic up. Tell us about Warmachine 4.0.
Oh, boy.
There's not a lot of good things to say here.
It's shaking up the format.
That's not a good thing in this particular circumstance.
Like, the problem with minis games is minis are not really disposable. You're supposed to buy a mini and put a lot of effort into a mini, and then it's fine because you can always play with that mini, right?
For the most part.
So the problem... Okay, so the problem with Warmachine as a game is that it collapsed under its own weight. And
that
like...
is one of the problems.
It built a minis game using Magic the Gathering ethos. And the problem is that people lose interest and retailers lose interest in stocking you when you have just an endless flood of little fiddly things, especially when in order to play competently, you need to memorize everything. And like Magic solved this problem by going to totally disposable formats. Like there's standard and there's commander, and then there's a bunch of formats that like honestly are kind of niche.
Modern is less niche, but also modern has issues.
Right. But so
commander is you build a deck and you keep it for basically ever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Vintage is I'm rich.
Right. Which is the huge problem.
But I mean,
That's a problem, too.
vintage is also like you will keep this deck forever.
Yeah. And this is like the problem that Warmachine got into is like, what happens if every card in Magic were still always valid? And then also there were new cards that were better coming out, that were mostly better, but not always coming out all the time, some of which would make your previous cards better. So you had to, if you were going to go play this game at any kind of reasonable level, you needed to know everything that had ever been released and all of the ways it could combo.
Honestly,
Like,
I keep thinking about this, but there needs to be a minis game that figures out how to sell a stable model while being able to have what it does change periodically.
yes.
To try and keep the meta fresh and unsolved.
That still is the issue of invalidating some previous purchases when they don't do the thing that you bought them to do.
That's fair.
It's a huge problem. So Warmachine 4.0 is like, okay, we're going to reboot everything from scratch because it would be ridiculous to rewrite all of the rules. We're basically removing, 80% of the existing models in the game and starting completely new.
80% is an understatement, actually, I think.
Yeah, it might actually be higher than that.
Because Warmachine had really two games, Warmachine and Hordes. And they're like, Hordes, we don't care about Hordes.
Yeah.
So everything I was potentially interested in ever, not included at all.
Not until 2024?
Something like that. It's great job. Swing and a miss.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Yeah, they're not doing Hordes for like several years. So there is a whole huge length of time where you don't get to play the game that you bought.
Or you can play the old version that
no one else is going to play.
It is entirely unsupported.
Yeah. And the thing that sort of gets me, I mean, there's a number of things that get me. I actually don't consider the new Warmachine version to be the controversial GenCon thing.
Do you mean their new method of producing minis is that?
Yeah. because like bluntly, Warmachine is kind of on the ropes. It cracked wide open. It basically came onto the scene when Games Workshop was doing very poorly and flailing and stuck in the late 80s, early 90s ethos, like super insistent that competitive play was not a thing anybody should care about, and what people should really care about is accurately recreating historic battles in the like fictional history they had written kind of nonsense. Like, and Warmachine cracked open the, hey, maybe there could be others minis games other than Games Workshop, and also what if they were smaller scale, and then kind of proceeded to forget about all of that. And the 4th edition like manifesto they wrote is taking potshots at Games Workshop,
who is no longer doing all of the things that caused Priority to Press to become popular in the first place.
Yeah, like they're taking potshots at mistakes Games Workshop made like 7 years ago.
I'm gonna say, when did Age of Sigmar actually come out? Because that was a mess.
It was a mess. It was also like 7 years ago.
Yeah,
right.
It's been a while.
And it is a glass, like they're sitting in their glass house throwing stones at it.
Right. It feels pretty tone deaf, and I don't, and honestly, like overall, other than that, which I sort of question, I don't really fault them because they're in sort of dire straits. I mean, I think I mentioned a few times that like when I first moved here, their headquarters is in our city. When I first moved here, I would go to the local game store and like almost the entire minis section, and certainly all of the most visible parts of it, were Privateer Press minis. And now they don't stock any.
Yeah, nobody around here stocks it. So
yeah, like it just doesn't get stocked.
Yeah, that's a bad sign.
And the thing is, the company's like right up the street.
Yep.
Like it's not by like by like in the city, I mean like it's not quite walking distance, but close. And the store doesn't stock their stuff. And like, ew, that's not good. So like this is a desperate move because the alternative is to all of the other stuff they've tried has failed. The thing that gets me, the thing that I'm like controversial GenCon presence is the other thing is they can evidently no longer afford overseas manufacture. So they're doing all of their stuff with resin printing, like 3D printing using resin in-house locally, which is fine. Like you can have you can have really good resin printers now. But the thing
if
is
you
that resin
pay for really good resin
you
printers.
have to pay for really good resin printers, and you have to have very, very, very good quality control because resin is not nice.
No,
Like
it really, really isn't.
like resin is bad for you, y'all. Like don't there's the like YouTube video that goes around periodically where people like hook up a microwave capacitor to like etch wood, and the commentary is how like absurdly dangerous it is and incredibly bad for your health. Working with resin without knowing what you're doing is not that instantly bad, but it's pretty close to that bad. It's incredibly toxic if you're not careful with it. But evidently they wanted to get a bunch of minis ready for GenCon, and people were reporting finding uncured resin dust in the like packaging.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Yeah. Along with like
Wow.
apparently somebody else was doing like drop in cast your own resin dice on the like show floor, which also no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like
I'm gonna be honest, if they were using like a 2-part resin or something, that's way less bad.
I have no idea what they were using, but like
But yeah,
it
it
not
still
super
makes me
ven-
raise my eyebrows a little bit.
It's certainly not well ventilated on the show floor.
No.
Like for anybody who goes to a con or is playing the home game, if somebody is working with resin and they're not outside, don't be in the same place.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it takes noxious fumes to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you basically want to be wearing like full body protection when working with this stuff, if at all possible.
Yeah.
Certainly, safety glasses, respirator, gloves, etc.
Yeah, it's not
Respirator,
messing
that's
around.
big. Respirator. You do not want it in your lungs. Good grief.
So none of that sounds good for Warmachine.
No.
No, they do not need to be, including free health problems with every purchase.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
So another thing that happened this week is the live stream that we've been waiting on for Path of Exile 3.19 Lake of Kalandra happened and announced all the things that are going to happen in that season.
Seems like a fun league mechanic.
Some of which are really cool.
Mhm.
Other which I'm not sure about, like the lowered unique drop rates.
I mean, if uniques are more likely to be useful.
I was gonna say, I did not find I found one useful unique while
Yeah.
playing the game.
I found 2, and that's out of like
I
dozens,
got quite a
if not
number.
over 100 that dropped.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
mostly they
like
were
there's a
crap.
lot of those that I didn't just get one of. I got multiples and threw one into bank,
Mm-hmm.
the guild
Yep.
bank.
Yeah, there were a few of those too.
Yeah. I'm not actually like necessarily super sad at the idea of those being a little bit less everywhere, because I did get so many more that I needed.
Well, and I didn't get past white maps, and I was getting plenty of unique drops, and I can only imagine they become more and more common as you get higher levels. So, yeah.
Where I was
Even
really seeing
reduced
them
is
was in
probably fine.
heists, and like it was really fun to run a heist and walk away with several uniques.
Yeah.
I also have uniques.
Yes.
In other words,
Yeah. There's like the replica things, and yeah.
I expect some of apparently what's going to come out of heists is kind of valuable. This league, apparently.
Yup.
I can see that.
I didn't really get a sense
It's valuable
of,
in general.
like I didn't get a clear idea of what the differences were.
So the biggest change that I was on board with was the change to the harvest mechanic.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's yes.
So
Harvest was more annoying than it was worth most of the time.
for anyone who
But-
doesn't know what harvest is, basically like you would run this specific kind of encounter either in a map or or just out in the world, and you would
You grow a crop of monsters.
You grow a crop of monsters, and then those turn into like crafting patterns, and you can only have so many of these crafting patterns stocked. So basically, like after a point, running more harvest is useless.
You basically need to use them immediately, or you can store a limited number of them in a station that you can then access from your hideout. But it's only like I don't know if there's a way to increase that amount, but at least starting out it's like
6
patterns.
or so, or I don't know. Like it's a smallish number. But now instead of that happening, when you run harvest, you're just going to get like crafting materials essentially that you can then use on harvest crafting patterns.
That's so much kinder.
And they also removed a bunch of the crafting patterns that nobody ever used anyway.
But I'm told they also nerfed some of the ones that were very deterministic to make crafting harder.
I mean, probably. I mean, they presumably need to do something to balance out the fact that now you don't have to, run it over and over hoping for the one good pattern to drop.
The traders are kind of salty about the Exalted change.
I didn't see enough.
Yeah,
I didn't see
whatever.
enough of either of those things.
I never
to care
saw
about that particular change.
I never saw any Exalts.
Yeah, I saw a couple of divine orbs.
Yeah, I had a couple divine orbs. So basically, divines are the new Exalts.
Presumably, yeah. We'll see what the de facto currency in the new season is.
Mass amounts of chaos orbs.
Also, lightning. Lightning is a thing.
I'm here for it.
A direct buff to crackling lance, and 3 new supporting skills for lightning builds.
Into it. I'm all the way here for lightning.
Specifically, like support for hitting things with shock and like really big shocks.
Shock is kind of ridiculous already because some sources gave you increased maximum effect, and now those things stack with each other, which seems silly to me. Shock is a debuff that causes your target to take more damage, so this might be dumb. Dumb things might happen.
Yup.
Like I'm pretty tempted to build for this.
And I'm wondering like if all these changes are going to make Lightning Brand faster.
Probably not.
Because that's the problem with Lightning Brand is it's kind of slow.
It's slow in a way Wintertide Brand isn't because of how it does damage. I did like Penance Brand, which is technically a lightning skill. I might see if something can be done with that. That's a weird one though, because you don't want Penance Brand to do your shock. You want it to take advantage of your shock.
Right.
And that's sort of what Lightning Conduit they just added is for. So I don't know. There are some options here, I think. If you are okay with like builds that alternate skills, an arc into Lightning Conduit looks like it might be silly.
I'm curious how much. I know arc mines are a thing that I can get. I wonder if this will work with arc mines.
Almost certainly, yes.
Yeah. And then there's the new season mechanic, which is like build out a little zone, and then once you finished building it, go there and kill things.
Neat.
This is sort of in the game already as expeditions, except expeditions are not quite as customizable as this.
Yeah.
Also, the way that you build those gives me anxiety.
Yes.
Fair. I agree with that.
Like rushing around trying to find the right door that I wanted to open or make sure that
Find
I
the right
killed
door,
the guy
make sure I got
wanted.
a correct rune of opening, killed the right person. Yes.
It's like
Do all of this in like 30 seconds.
The shortest time limit. Yeah.
I never figured that out in any kind of coherent way.
And of course, by the time that I actually could go to the temple, I was not prepared and just did really poorly, and it was kind of sad. And then pretty much just ignored it the rest of the season because we were so close to the end.
I am told that the current one is kind of like Synthesis, but though I wasn't around for that. But a thing it seems to involve is it seems to directly involve a bunch of old League mechanics.
Yeah.
So it might be a chance for newer players, like all of us, to see what what was up with some of these things.
Yeah, because basically you get to like pick what sorts of encounters you want to put on your little tablet, and like in what order you'll be able to get to them. And like the further away an encounter is from where you're entering, the more valuable the rewards from it are. And so You can kind of build it out the way you want it, and then go get that stuff.
I kind of love that once you get to the maps level, you can basically save them if you want to like run them with friends and such.
Yeah.
And then the other the thing that I thought was real interesting is there's going to be these objects that you can stick a ring in it. I think it's a ring or a necklace.
Yeah, ring or amulet.
And
Yep.
Although realistically, I'm not going to get to the point where I'm going to be able to stick a ring or amulet in any of these things.
Yeah, the first ones you find just create a ring or amulet and then creates 2 copies of it. And each one has the opposite buffs of the other. And so like half of the things on the jewelry are good and half of the things are penalties.
This is going to be so dumb.
But they are
Yep.
There are going to be some ridiculously dumb items as a result of this.
Yeah, because they are twice the value that they are normally allowed to be. So if you can find one that has bonuses to the things you want and you don't care about the things it has penalties to, well, congratulations.
Like if you're using, say, precise technique or resolute technique, and you find something that has like minus crit rate or minus crit damage.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Or if you're doing the thing where, your life pool is 1 and you're just running on an energy shield. Oh, it has negative life?
Whatever.
Okay, sure. It looks so silly when you have like an entire bar of energy shield that covers your entire health orb.
I mean, I think that looks kind of hilarious, honestly.
It does. It really does.
But then
I think it's funnier when people have like almost their entire health bar reserved.
Yes.
Because Chaos Inoculation just gives you 1 max health, so it shows the full bar all the time. But if you reserve it, it's just sort of like a gray bowl with energy shield over it.
But then at higher levels, you find these things and you can put a ring or amulet that you have into it, and it will randomly reverse like half of its bonuses and then make a mirror of it. So you can gamble.
It's going to make some
I can't
really
wait to
silly
see
items.
Silly things come about as a result of this.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I'm excited about are the Atlas memories.
Yes.
That looks really cool.
It looks really entertaining, and the key thing that I hope will be great about it is that they don't use your Atlas tree, your Atlas skill tree. They're just whatever they are in the item that you find. And so it doesn't matter as much if you are, I mean, I think they will only show up a bit later in the map process, but still, like, it doesn't matter exactly how you have built out your tree because they ignore it anyway.
Yeah, because this is memories of what your friends went through.
Right.
So your tree doesn't matter.
And
Do you really want to
sounds
know
really
what
fun.
Einar went through?
I want to know
Yes.
exactly what Einar went through.
Einar is
It's gonna be
friend.
amazing.
The cool thing about it though is like it actually should solve some of the problems where there are certain maps that are almost impossible to get for completion, and doing it as part of a memory still counts as you completing it. So like marks it off on your atlas.
You'd have to luck into the memory covering it though, because you have to
Yeah.
start from a node you completed.
And I'm a little skeptical because some of those maps that are harder to get are the unique ones that I'm not sure whether the memories are going to dive into those or not.
Yeah, because I mean those are dead ends. They don't link to they only link to one map usually. So and the memory like creates a chain of maps. So I don't
But I still think it sounds super fun. I think it's kind of interesting that they're adding this little bit of story to the maps.
And they did verify that failing on a map in the chain does not prevent you from doing the rest of the chain. Like each one is its own thing. I appreciate that.
Each one is still more difficult, so you
Maybe
you
think
may have
very
trouble.
hard about
Right.
doing the next one if you fail one.
So the thing I'm looking forward to the most is the Nemesis changes. Because like right now you could get a stupid amount of like rare elites on a map at a given time. And in theory, you should be seeing far less of them. Now, each individual one is probably harder, but like it should be less of a giant puddle of death that you can't move around in.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it seems like Inquisitor is still going to be viable, so I plan on doing potentially some sort of a Frost thing with Inquisitor. Minions, I don't know how viable they are right now.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on it. I'm still watching something shake out. I think I might still go for it. I suspect that I will struggle a bit harder until I get some correct gear.
I did sort of feel like on the minion thing, like you could just ignore that gear was a thing for a lot of it.
For a little while.
Mhm.
Eventually, you need it.
Resist.
But and not just resist, but actual minion stats. But
Yeah.
it takes a while before you really feel like you need it. But it does kick in eventually, and I think the changes they're making, that that feeling will kick in much sooner.
To a certain extent, that's kind of how everything else works, though. You need spell damage to make most builds functional. Like, you need, if your build is weapon based, you need to keep your weapon at a reasonable level.
Yeah, hopefully they're adding new base types for some things that have minion stats on them.
And they are. They're adding like a new base ring type.
Yeah.
They're adding a bunch of other things.
Like there's also like a new base
they're
wand,
changing
I
one of the
think.
shields. Yeah.
I think that helm recipe change is going to be very big for anyone who's not playing a necromancer at the moment, and does mean you can run minions at a reasonable level on non-necromancers. It does mean necromancer ate a huge giant nerf relative to everything else. I don't know if it's an absolute nerf, but it's definitely a relative nerf, because they basically took a necromancer passive and moved it into a stat you can get on gear.
Yeah, and that what you just said is basically my question for what I'm going to decide to play is the necromancer nerf just mostly a relative nerf compared to where it was in relation to other things, or is it really going to feel worse compared to itself in the previous league?
I guess it depends on when you got Unholy Strength previously, because that was the big thing. It had +2 to level of all minion gems in it. Oh no, we'll have to see how that one shakes out.
I didn't really get into Path of Exile last season because I was out for most of that time, but I'm definitely excited for and by the time I was ready to really get into it, it's like the season is ending and I didn't really want to invest the time. So I'm really excited for this season to get started.
Yeah, same. 18th?
Something like that next Friday.
Next Friday?
Next Friday. People have theory crafted a bunch of Saboteur builds that people seem to really like.
Interesting.
Ice Trap is the big one, because Seismic Trap they did just kind of take out back. Is not
unsurprising.
Could be worse. You could want to play a melee build.
I do want to play a melee build, actually. We'll have to see what becomes of that.
Yeah. I think Chris Wilson's statement was maybe next season.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everyone who says that melee builds are not good if they mean a build that swings your weapon to hit somebody in front of you.
Yes.
Physical damage. To do that.
Physical damage doing some other shenanigans. Yeah, no, that's fine.
I don't plan to do that. They're buffing Sunder a lot. Maybe enough, maybe not enough. But either way, Ice Crash still exists, and Ice Crash is great. And Earthquake still exists, and Earthquake is great. Neither one of those requires me to swing my weapon and hit an enemy in front of me. It's more like swing my weapon and things around me go away.
Yeah.
I did find out that the thing people seem to not like about these builds is they require a decent chunk of buttons because they have a lot of war cries.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But whatever. I don't find that a major issue.
So, what if I were to tell you that there is a game that has learned lessons from Genshin Impact, as a result is mostly just universally better, is science fiction setting, and like draws elements from the feel of like a merger of Phantasy Star Online 2 and Borderlands and maybe some WildStar Exiles?
I would ask you if you were talking about Zenless Zone Zero.
No, I am talking about Tower of Fantasy, which is the most generic game name ever.
That is the worst name.
Yeah, so it's just
right up there with Stories: The Path of Destinies.
Yeah, so like
I'm pretty sure I played a Saga game that would accurately describe, though.
Yeah, so this game came out this week, and I have been playing it, and I think Ammo and Saul have been playing it a little bit as well.
Yep.
So like it essentially this is Perfect World, aka Tencent's Genshin game. And like across the board, it is a much more generous game than Genshin ever was. Like I have done at least 160 pulls, and those were all free. Because like there's two kinds of currency that you can just find out in the world. They've learned a lot of lessons. Like for example, dodge is not tied to your stamina. You get like 3 dodge charges that regen pretty quickly, so you can do fun things like air dash while you're gliding to, get additional distance. It has double jump. It also has vehicles. So like you have mounts. One of the pieces of the whole Genshin is Zelda thing that never quite shook out is Zelda has a lot of machinery that you collect that do different things. Mm-hmm. And this game has relics, which do all that. So there's like a missile launcher that you can use to break walls, kind of like a bomb. There's, essentially the equivalent of hook shot. There's these crazy arms that you can put on that, you can fight with temporarily. There's a robot that you can get in and, fire its turret for a while. There's like the freeze block thing from Breath of the Wild. There's like a cannon that you fire that does the same thing, where it builds a platform for you that you can grapple into areas that basically you couldn't climb otherwise. You can also use it to like block laser beams and things like that for solving puzzles. So like there's a lot more solutions that are available to puzzles in the world than Genshin had, which was basically just match the element and light up some lamps. So, I mean, this is very much a Genshin-ish game. The other piece of this that is an improvement is it's actually an MMO. Like, legitimately an MMO. You can really play with other players. You can random into pseudo-WoW style dungeons where you basically just take on a bunch of bosses and some trash. The world bosses are anybody that happens to be in the map at the time that this boss spawns can fight it. You're actually roaming around with other players. There are guilds, and you actually get to create your character.
Yep.
Shocking. And
you can still play waifus and husbandos, but you basically, when you pick up a weapon, everything is weapon based. So, the things that you are rolling for are unique weapons, either, purple ones or legendary looking ones. And when you pick up one of these, you also gain the simulacrum of the person that originally wielded it. So if you really want to look like not Diluc, you could run around looking like not Diluc. It is a, like, for me at least, it is a better game than Genshin. The only real annoying thing right now is they are slow rolling this game. And
what does that mean?
So every day there is a level cap.
No, that doesn't make sense.
Every day there is a level cap. And, for like the first 9 days, it is every day there's a new level cap. And then after that, it's every other day. And eventually, like, you wind up at level 70 sometime in November.
Is this game-wide or you?
Game-wide.
Okay.
Everyone on the server, like today, no one on the server can be any higher than level 30.
But I can get up to level 30 today?
Yeah. Like if you are starting late, you're uncapped to the new cap.
I mean, I don't hate that, actually.
Like honestly, it's not
a lot of the problems that mobile games often have.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, and it seems like, honestly, you get a lot of experience to catch up. So the weird thing about it is, like, always in the past, it was a bit of a grind every time you uncapped yourself in Genshin to get to the next plateau. But like, just by doing the quest, I end up getting the levels needed to hit to the next level cap.
Well, you don't need to make leveling a grind to slow people down if you're just like, nope, this is as far as you get for now.
I mean, and I think it's also probably allowing them to like continue working on the story content as they go.
I have to assume this game is out in another region.
Yeah, it's out in China already. Like there's a bunch of characters that don't exist in China or don't exist in North America yet or technically
Right.
global.
So this also provides some time for them to, port more stuff over.
Yeah, exactly. But in the grand scheme of things, like it's really freaking good. And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of things that there exists a version of it in Genshin. Like, for example, remember the annoyance of the resin system to where essentially you ran out of, ability to do anything and then just couldn't do anything after a while. There is an equivalent of that. It's real cheap to buy more. Vitality is what the system's called. You just use the universal currency that you get for everything. That you could, you could do pulls off of it, or you could buy additional turns. But they've added in a functionality to where if you run content without the ability to get the box rewards, you get a currency called support points. And there's a whole other store.
That feels very to the point.
Yeah, there's a whole other store for buying stuff with support points.
Is this points you get when you are supporting somebody?
Yeah, where basically you're just going in, but you're not getting the loot. So instead you get like, I don't know, 100 support points per run, something like that. And there's various useful things on the support store that you would want. So there's essentially 3 tiers of pull currency. There's purple orbs, and I don't know the names of these things. There's orange orbs, and there's red orbs. And purple orbs are everywhere in the world. Orange orbs are pretty common in the world, but like less common than purple orbs. So on the support store, you can buy just a ton of purple orbs if you want. And I don't know if you can get legendary weapons off of the purple orbs, but you can absolutely get purple ones. And purple weapons are freaking good. And it's not, the weapons so far don't have overlap between the two of them. So like the purple weapons don't immediately become unuseful when you get legendaries, because like there are versions of weapons that exist only in purple. So like there's this big ice hammer that's freaking amazing that only exists as a purple weapon. There's no equivalent in the legendary weapons. But the same is true. Like there's legendary weapons that there's no real equivalent in the purple weapons. Like there's this frost cannon thing that Hilda gets, that like its special ability is it essentially turns into a siege tank from StarCraft, where like you just hunker down and have this giant cannon that you can shoot people with. I don't know, like there's a lot of stuff to do, and the fact that like there's a limited amount of levels that you can actually get makes the XP side of that equation not that important, so you can just roam around and do whatever. At some point there's PvP, but the PvP is normalized, so you can't actually whale.
Oh, that's good.
Or like you could whale, but like the benefit of your whaling is limited. You're not going to have just overwhelming power over the other players. Like that's the weird thing about this game, is they could be trying to make a lot more money than they are. At this point, I've pulled 5 legendary champions.
I mean, we're still trying to verify whether that's Bel luck or actually some sort of average.
Like, I don't know. Like, I know Saul's played more than you have, Ammo, but like how many has she pulled?
I know she got not Diluc.
There's a character called King, and instead of a giant fire sword, he's got a fire scythe.
Yeah, yeah.
But otherwise looks exactly like Diluc.
I honestly forget. I'm not sure, but I don't know if she's like spending her currency right away or just kind of sitting on it right now, because I think she got him and she's like, oh, he's cool. And she's just like kept him and like some of the other weapons that she tried out.
Okay. Yeah, like I mean, you get a front-loaded amount of pulls, and folks
That
are
is common.
folks are like re-rolling if they don't get a legendary, and then I did need a legendary in my first pulls, but also just by roaming around the world, you end up with so many yellow orbs that you can just start pulling. And the currency that you can turn into orbs, basically the equivalent of primogems, everything generates that currency. So you can buy more pull orbs pretty reasonable. Like it's to the point where I'm using that for other things than pulling because, like I'd rather have the vitality and not, additional pulls. The only thing that you can't get organically in the world is the red orbs, but you can convert the primogem equivalency, which are called dark crystals, to red orbs at the same rate you can convert to yellow orbs. So like if you really want to try for the champion on the raid up banner, you can. I got it in 25 pulls. So again, I don't know if that's just my luck or if it's. I do know that the actual rates are more generous. Like they've posted the rates, and it is more generous than Genshin. The way pity works is different. So instead of 90 for the pity, it's 80 for the pity. Also, if you happen to get a legendary on your way to your pity, it doesn't reset your pity. So, like, it's just a bonus that you got lucky and got a legendary.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no, it doesn't reset it. Like, you will get a free legendary every 80 pulls.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, regardless of whether or not you've gotten a legendary in that process. The first pity is 40, so you're going to get a legendary after 40.
I know I got my SSR like within 3-10 pulls. I think I've done 4 so far.
Yeah. There's also like an event going on right now, and I don't know if this is only gonna happen once, but basically like you acquire points through doing logins and doing things in the game, and then I got mine today, and it's basically a choice box where I could choose any SSR legendary champion. Just pick the one I want. So since I had not gotten it yet, I ended up with not Diluc. But like the cool thing is like, so initially I thought, oh, so you've got to morph into the champion to use their weapon. And no, you can just roll around and never use any of the appearances of the simulacrum and just be you with the cool weapons.
Okay, see, I didn't know that because I was just putting it on because that's what the game had told me to. But I mean,
yep, no, you can just be you and use those weapons. And as you gain affinity with those characters and they get bonus abilities, you can just go into their screen and toggle one of them on and use it as your character. So like you don't ever have to look like one of the waifu or husbandos.
Okay, that's nice to know because the one I
you
got
can just be
kind
you.
of. So I will definitely probably switch that off.
Yeah, like they're all fine. Like I kind of like Zero, which is the little scientist dude that is actually a fire mage.
That's
like he's got this giant cube, and I didn't know what the weapon did, but apparently it just turns you into fire mage, and you like cast fire on everything.
Nice. The SSR I got is Tsubasa, and like she's okay, but I just like the look of my character better at this point. So if I can just play around as her, then that's what I'm gonna do until I try somebody else out.
I was looking at the Chinese champions that haven't released here yet, and so like one of the problems with Genshin is they kind of painted themselves into a corner of having like specific weapons that you could use. So like a spear, a great sword, a long sword, etc. Whereas since the thing that is rare is not a character, it's their weapon, like there's some weird weapons that are coming up. So like you want to fight with bladed fans? Sweet. There's a champion that just uses bladed fans.
I I feel like it must take a lot of work to try to balance unique movesets like that.
Yeah. Like there's a character in the game right now, which is basically, what was her name from Soul Calibur? Lily? The
Ivy?
not Ivy. The one that had the giant chakram.
Tira.
Tira. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So basically, there's a Tira champion where you're just like, you have a giant chakram that's as big as the character.
Wow.
So like, I fully expect there will be champions that wield whips, and there's a champion that just has a shield, that I've heard somehow turns into an axe. I don't know exactly, but like,
I mean, you've played Monster Hunter, haven't you?
yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I've played with the switch axe.
The charge blade is the shield that turns into an axe.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, so like it's going to be interesting, and the fact that it's like a science fiction world is also kind of cool. There's various factions in the world. You know, like at some point there was a cataclysm, and you're the people that have remained afterwards, trying to do their best to build back little pockets of humanity. But like up in the sky, there's this entire floating island that's basically like untouched that you can go visit. And like, it's not a horrible post-apoc type setting. Like, it's people are generally fairly nice people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the enemy factions are not great, but you know, because you basically have the berserker people from Borderlands as a faction, and then there's a weird sky pirate faction. There's these mutant zombie things that like somehow the apocalypse caused this infection to spread and occasionally turn people into these mindless creatures. And
But it's not like a crap sack world.
oh no, it's not a crap sack world.
Oh,
Like
cool.
like there's kids roaming around in the cities, and you know, like you're trying to save people. You know, you're the traditional wanderer character that has amnesia.
Yeah. You can interact with the cat.
Yep. You have a oh man, the sad Neko robot that's waiting on its master. Have you encountered that yet?
Yes. I was like, oh, can I take you with me? I want you to come with me.
I will trade.
Yeah, exactly. Here, have this. She can stay here instead.
Yeah, we have it. You basically have like the traditional like small female character that follows you around, but is far less annoying than Paimon was.
But is it also food?
No, it's a robot. It's a robot.
But also the fact that we can actually do our own talking does help a lot.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, we're not a silent protagonist, but we also can like make choices between usually two choices, but there's usually like a snarky version and a good guy version. So I don't know. It's pretty cool. I mean, it right now is my Path of Exile 3.9 waiting room.
Yeah,
I feel like we all have those games.
My complaint is that I wish this game hadn't come out right before PoE.
Yeah,
it's gonna have a new league, because I can't quite bring myself to get invested in it, knowing that my attentions are about to be someplace else.
I mean, it has full controller support out the gate, on mobile platforms and on PC. It's eventually coming to Steam. I don't know when it's coming to Steam, but it's in the wish list mode on Steam. The movement is really good and also lets you do some really dumb things. Like there is a way to basically infinitely climb because it's got double jump, and you can start climbing, kick off the wall, double jump, push onto the wall. And if you get the timing just right, you can basically infinitely climb. A lot of the relics can be powered up over time. So like when you first get your glider, it takes stamina, but the first upgrade of the glider basically makes it so that it doesn't take stamina anymore. And you can just glide forever. You'll continue to drop at a steady rate, but with air dash and gliding, you can really get far. The gliding also basically has the equivalent of Venti's ult, where it shoots you up in the air. So, like, it's not just, I need to jump off something. I can push the button and it shoots me up into the air and I can glide over things. So it's essentially a jetpack. I don't know. It's well worth checking out, other than the fact that it's competing with other things right now. Which probably brings us to the other thing it's competing with.
Worth checking out.
Yeah, it's Cult of the Lamb.
Bah.
Do you over digital releases weird games?
Yes, but really good weird games.
Like, this game is What If ActRaiser, but Zelda.
I mean, aesthetically, this game is what if, like, Binding of Isaac, but with cute woodland creatures instead of babies.
Disgusting.
I was gonna say less disgusting than Binding of Isaac, though.
I mean, there's still shit.
Less poop. There is some poop.
There is some poop, but it's whatever. Eventually, I'll get my people to deal with the poop.
Yeah, but and also, replace the Christian imagery with, like, elder gods.
Basically, yes.
Because you're a lamb. And
it's also a little bit of Stardew Valley.
And apparently, yeah.
And it's time to be a cult.
Binding of Animal Crossing.
The art reminds me a little bit of the characters from Night in the Woods.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does have a little of that vibe too.
I mean, it also has some Rogue Legacy elements to it as well.
Yeah, it is, because it is a roguelite. Like, you're going back and forth between the it's the chained areas sort of thing that like One Step to Eden does, FTL, that the tower climbing game that I can't remember the name of right now, the card thing.
Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire. Yeah, it's that sort of thing.
It works really, really well.
See, that's the aspect that reminds me of ActRaiser, is you're basically moving from simulation mode to action mode.
Yeah, because you're alternating between that and, like, maintaining your cult and building new buildings and keeping people happy and making sure they're fed and that they don't get sick from there being too much of their poop around, because apparently they just, they just poop wherever.
But some of them are weird and like it.
They do look embarrassed about it if you catch them pooping.
And if you read their minds, they're not thrilled about not having a place to poop.
Yeah, I have yet to get to an outhouse.
But also, I need that poop to fertilize the garden. So
they're providing a benefit to the cult.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of charming, weird little details.
So
like this game could have been really, like,
creepy and weird.
It could have been really creepy and weird.
And instead, it's adorable and weird.
Yeah, like, it's adorable and weird, and, like, yeah, it's creepy, but it's hard to get too weirded out by the creepy parts of it because it's so charming. It's like tongue in cheek.
Like, you are literally a lamb, and apparently there's some prophecy that a lamb will, like, restore the elder god that was chained forever ago, and the gods that are currently in charge don't want that. So they've been killing all the lambs, and you were the last one. So they killed you, but that just sent you to the elder god, and he sent you back, and now you owe him.
That god seems like a relatively decent.
Yeah, he seems real happy with this.
I mean,
there is the bit where, they are kind of sending you to, kill everybody who's responsible for all the other stuff, but,
those guys are dicks.
Well,
and, I'm not going to say they don't deserve it, but
and
still.
Recruit followers whom, you will also then kill.
Because, yeah.
Like I have a hard time saying any of these gods are, particularly, like, good, but
fair.
Certainly we don't seem to be replacing, like, what currently exists with something worse.
Well, and at least the god that we're serving doesn't really seem to care that much how we run our cult. Like, if you want to crack down on things and be a giant jerk and let people murder each other when they feel like it, that's fine. But also, if you want to make sure that people have a respectful way to remember their dead and, like, help each other out, and everyone is happy when you build more shelter for people, like, the the god you're serving is cool with that too.
It's pretty great. He's like, yeah, it seems to be going well for you.
Yeah, because as you all go along, you get to pick doctrines, and every time you're picking between two options, and you pick one or the other, and it locks out the other. And they definitely seem to tend to be one more cheerful one and one more murdery one. Like the one that I just most recently chose from was I could decide like either my followers believe in an afterlife, and so they are less unhappy when people die, or they think sacrifice is really awesome, so they are happier when I murder people for the glory of our God.
Yeah, I should have picked that option.
Murder.
I wanted him to be happy, and I knew at some point people would just start dying of old age.
I mean, if you let them.
Likely. I mean, well,
I got
yes.
I got one that lets me do ascension, like they can ascend, and then everybody's happy.
The alternative option is you can just murder people whenever. And it definitely made it sound like just being able to murder people is a lot quicker and easier way to get rid of people if you want to. But an ascension takes some effort.
Oh my god, because I hate dissenters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can get you can get cultists who have only negative modifiers.
I have plenty of those, but they still do stuff.
Yeah, and then you can get cultists that actively are messing with you.
But you can brainwash them, or you can put them in jail and re-educate them.
Yeah, there's a stockade you can learn to build. That's a thing. So clearly you there's a reason you would need this.
I'm glad I learned the stone and wood printing machine.
Yeah.
I waited too long on those.
Because I wasn't sure how it was going to work, and I was super happy to find out that no, this person just basically sits in this hut and makes stone and wood out of nothing.
Yeah, because initially
it's clear that there is a limited supply of both of these things when you start the game.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it looks like new trees grow.
You do need to make new trees grow very slowly.
Yeah.
Also, you do need to make sure that you save some of those materials in reserve because those buildings do not last forever. I discovered that the hard way.
That's good to know.
Oh yeah, that was rough. Yeah.
On the bright side, you can also get those resources from the combat section. Like some of the options for rooms that you can go into have wood or stone icons on them, and these are rooms where you can harvest just a whole bunch of that resource.
Admittedly, this is why the teleport back to base option is amazing.
And I wish I had picked that as my first one. Now that I know, basically there are 4 biomes effectively, of ascending difficulty presumably, and each one has an end boss, and you have to run through it multiple times to unlock the end boss. After you defeat the end boss, you can then go back into that biome and push as far in as you want to go. But the portals are only available every so often to come out, unless you have gotten that ability to just leave whenever you want to.
You do lose a little bit of your stuff if you do it that way, but not as much as if you had died.
I greatly appreciate that this is not a roguelike game where you are expected to die 50 times before you ever succeed at all. I have not failed a combat run yet. I'm not real far in, but I have defeated the first big boss.
That's basically where I got to, is I have taken down the first god.
Yeah.
I started failing after the first god.
I mean,
I don't know a lot, but I do fail.
I definitely fail a lot now. I'm in the 4th area, and I've also gone back. The other thing about once you've murdered the bishops in each of the areas, the enemies in the area do get more difficult.
Yeah.
And I've definitely gone back either for resources or because my followers are like, hey, my friend is in there, go get him.
Yeah,
I want some flowers.
One of my followers wants flowers from the place that I just killed the bishop from. So yeah.
That's why I went back in there, and my god, did everything get bullet spongy.
Things that were taking 2 hits to kill need 6 now.
The stupid worms that hop around take forever.
Hate them.
But it definitely, it has a nice roguelite bit of every time you go in, you're basically going in with a random weapon and a random spell, and there's some limited options for swapping that maybe on a run. And yeah, at the beginning that was mostly fine, and there were, limited options to choose from. Now I definitely have favorites, and like any roguelite, this run is not going to be good. But then
Did
I
I
can
get an
aim-
axe? This run is probably not going to be good.
Axe is
Yeah,
just too slow.
it's very slow.
Wait until you get a
It's
hammer.
big though.
See, like,
It's
Axe is
beautiful.
great because you basically just have to play it super aggressive. You need to kill them before they kill you.
Or you need to, like, I play charge axe, where I stay far away, I charge in, and I get an axe strike, and I dash away.
Yeah, I've definitely had some success with the hammer, which, like, I found one that's doing more than 9 points of damage in one hit, but also is so slow. So you're sort of playing incredibly defensively, and also I hope you have some kind of quick ranged attack for for your spell. But it's so compelling. The play between the, taking care of your cult and then going in and murdering things and getting resources and progressing the story. Like, the balance between those things feels very good, and even a little further into the game still feels pretty good. I don't feel like I have to be constantly bogged down by my followers, but if I want to spend a bunch of time hanging out with them and, murdering and resurrecting them repeatedly, that's also okay.
Is there a better way to do blessings eventually?
The, like, talking to each follower,
Yeah.
and one of the doctrines I found, I think it was a doctrine, it lets me have a oh goodness, I forget exactly what they're called, but they're like a loyalty officer. And they basically just go around and make sure that everyone is loyal. So they'll go around and talk to everybody and
And
raise
do
their
blessings? That's
Well,
cool.
it's not, I don't think it does quite as much. I also have another ability that that raises their loyalty a little bit more than the standard blessing. So it's still worth talking to them individually sometimes, but also at some point I have
It's
so
too
many followers.
Yeah, that's what I mean, I'm at 10 followers now, and it's getting to be a lot.
Yeah, I don't necessarily interact with all of them every day, but there's some other uses for followers. Like, at some point, you can get, a building that lets you summon a demon, and it'll possess your followers, and they'll go on your adventures with you. They have very specific abilities depending on what demon happens to like them, and so you can kind of pick which ones of those you really like and just focus on raising the loyalty of those followers.
Sweet.
Can also send your followers out on missions as missionaries.
To recruit more followers?
I don't think that they will recruit, but they will get resources.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it looks like they bring resources back as long as they survive.
Yes.
I love the little dances.
The little dances, the little chanting that they do.
Yes.
I've started coming back from missions and like getting messages showing up that like 2 of my followers have become friends, which hopefully is primarily a good thing, but I suspect if I kill one of those 2 that the other one might get mad.
I mean, I can marry my followers now, and when you do it
To you or each other?
to me, and
You can,
when you
and
do
you don't
it,
you don't need to stop really.
right?
You just need to manage their jealousy.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
the game gives you a little note that's like, it's your cult. You can marry as many people as you feel like. You just be aware that they might be kind of jealous if you have a lot of spouses. But it's a marriage ceremony is a great way to to help get everybody's faith going. Everyone's really happy when you have a wedding.
I remember the first time I learned that people really don't like it when you wake them up for a sermon in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't like that. They don't like it if you interrupt when they're having a conversation with somebody else.
They really don't like it when you, when one of your followers dies and you cut up their body to use for food.
Well, you know,
I mean, that's just
everybody was
efficient.
hungry. I mean, what are you supposed to do with it? Just throw it in a pit? That's a
One
waste.
of my followers has a pumpkin phobia, which is very bad times for them.
Are you all pumpkins all the time?
I'm all pumpkins all the time.
There was one follower that was like, "Did you know that you can make us eat grass? We won't like it. Please make me eat grass."
Yes.
I'm like, what the hell, dude?
I think it would be funny if you make this other follower eat poop. Can you do that for me?
Oh dear.
I've gotten that same quest with the same follower as the target like 5 times. Just every cultist is picking on that one guy.
Wow.
I mean, that would work out real well if that follower was, a coprophiliac, because that's one of the options.
I definitely had a really delightful chain of someone who had rebelled against me and I was really annoyed with, and I'd finally brainwashed him back into being in the flock. And one of my other followers was like, "No, hey, that guy, he's totally a spy for the other side. Like, lock him up anyway, even though he's fine now."
Nice.
Oh man, if I got a will you take this dissenter in? And I was like, yeah, sure. That was a terrible choice. Dissenters are awful.
If you only have one of them and you have a prison, you can immediately throw them in. It's manageable because you could re-educate them in, a day or two. But if they're just wandering around riling everybody up, it's a bad time.
Oh, it was a really bad time. I am now fixing it, but it required me to take the when you die you can sacrifice a follower to get rezzed.
Well,
Specifically, so you could sacrifice that one.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no, we're out, buddy. Guess what?
Is there a way to get people to
Almost everything has a like an upgrade path somewhere or an automation path somewhere.
Oh, and there's fishing. Fishing is fun.
Oh, yeah,
Fishing is
also
actually really good. Like it's a good version of fishing.
wait, what?
There's fishing. You can when one of the times that you're out like murdering things, you'll come across a lake where there's a fisherman who is a fish fishing for fish, and
Yep.
he tells you, "Hey, there's not enough room here, but you know where's great to fish?" And that unlocks the Pilgrim's Passage. You can fish there.
Which is also a great place to steal a bunch of wood and rock from if you get desperate.
Yeah, and there's a
I
lighthouse
was
there
desperate.
that you can light.
Yeah, there's a few more of those sort of side areas that open up. There's the guy who shows you how to brainwash your followers, because the guy is a mushroom and he really loves mushrooms, and mushrooms are pretty good for brainwashing your followers.
And seems reasonable. There's the initial tutorial guy who
And his creepy cabin in the woods.
Yeah, eventually you can go to his cabin and you can play dice with him.
I like that he's like, sweet, I don't have to be the chosen one anymore. I sucked at it. Other people are like, yeah, I sucked at it.
I have no idea how long of a game this is, but like I feel like it could go into a just one more turn spiral.
Yeah.
Definitely does that. And I don't know exactly how long it will be, but I have already encountered someone who was like, "Hey, yeah, I know you're going in and killing those bishops, and that's actually kind of screwing things up for me. So now I want you to go back in where you fought them, and now there's some other thing, and I want you to kill that and earn some currency and do some other stuff." So yeah, it's definitely got some form of a tale after you go through the 4 different zones. But I am not sure exactly what that will look like.
I mean, it wouldn't be a Zelda-like without a world too.
But yeah, it's very one more turn. I maybe stayed up until about 4 a.m. this morning playing it. That was not the best life choice, but it was really fun.
It was the choice that was made.
It plays real well on Steam Deck, and this is bad.
Yeah, this I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that this game has basically no like performance requirements whatsoever.
Oh no,
Yeah,
it's like I don't think it's even a gigabyte.
It's not. It's like 800 megs.
Yeah, I'm having a feeling that it's probably going to play great over the Steam Link client on a phone with a controller.
The only reason that I'm glad that I got it for Steam and not on the Switch is that I really enjoy watching all the little expressions on my cultist faces when they do things, and I think I would lose a little bit of that in a handheld.
The expressions really are great.
I picked it up for PS5, so I get to see a lot of expressions.
At this point, I think we've just about run over time. Any final thoughts about anything?
We're in a really great era of board games.
It's true. Since last week, I have watched all the rest of Sandman. It's fantastic. Watch it.
It is amazing.
I'm going to go on a limb and make the statement. I actually think it improves on the comics.
Yeah, I kind of think so too, because I've started rereading the comics, because it's been like 30 years for me since I last read them.
And it makes sense when you think about it, because particularly for that first story arc, for Preludes and Nocturnes, like, Neil didn't even know if he was going to get to keep this going after 8 issues. Like, he did not have the end game locked in yet at that point. So the opportunity to go in and make some adjustments to link everything up, it makes sense. Like, I have to assume over the past 30 years, he has occasionally thought, oh, I could have done this thing.
I really want something to come out of this with this Constantine.
I mean, he has said, apparently a lot of people have said, that Johanna Constantine, how about just like a show about her? Which, yes,
Yep.
like that's...
I mean, the Constantine show that was released was fine, but also, like, no, like, I would like this character.
Yeah, I mean, Jenna Coleman is great. Like, and this is her playing basic, like, John Constantine, like, straight out of the comics, but played by Jenna Coleman. It's brilliant. Like, I would love to see an episode of a Constantine show where she turns a pool of holy water into beer, and then later defeats Satan by, offering him a drink.
Well, I think that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.